Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. To follow us on Instagram, go to No Name Music Cast Podcast. To send us an email, it's nonamemusiccast@gmail.com. And to visit our website, go to nonamemusiccast.com. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And Joy and I have had a very passionate chat before we hit record and play this evening. Recording on a Friday night, rapidly becoming our recording night of choice.
I felt like we're just upping the ante, and we need a Friday night, to truly encompass all the things that are happening in just our lives. What do you think, Tim?
I mean, it could be, and it could be also that I practice on a Wednesday with the band, when that was normally our traditional recording night.
To be fair, I now have gotten a kickboxing class. Yes, Joy has started kickboxing. I don't know what that says to the world, but I also am a member of Indivisible locally and have been dealing with all that. So, you know, it could be calendar-esque, but I like to think it's just because I'm sassy.
There you go. Well, we'll take that, Joy. I think our listeners will agree with that.
No biases at all, my own personal life. All right. Well, Tim, what do you got for the people?
Okay, I've got two things for you before we get into the topic, which is my topic this week. Okay. Firstly, I've been listening to a great audiobook this week and last week. Okay. And this is an audiobook which I've had for a while, but I decided to listen to it because I thought, well, I've had this for a while and I really should listen to it. Mm-hmm. And it is by Paul Stanley of the band Kiss. Now, I'm a casual Kiss fan. I mean, I'm not like a Kiss super fan. I own a few of their albums. I like some of their songs. And I never really felt necessary to get into the inner workings of the world of Kiss outside of skimming the Wikipedia article. But this book, this is Paul Stanley's book. It was a New York Times bestseller when it came out. It's been out for a number of years. It's called Face of Music, A Life Exposed. He did come out with another follow-up book to this, and it's not as good, apparently. But this book, I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and it's absolutely fascinating. And what it seems is that Paul Stanley always wanted to be famous. He didn't have a B plan. He always wanted to be a rock star. He gets involved with Kiss, and and to begin with, Gene is his rock, and then Ace Frehley and Peter Criss are like drug addict drunks who are a nightmare, and then people have to leave and people have to come back. And I've just got to the bit where it's starting to get a bit
this
dodgy.
Feels very every band ever, Tim, but continue.
Yeah, and it's starting to get to the bit now where his relationship with Gene is on the rocks, and Gene wants to be a film star and stuff. But I mean, it's the good thing about it. I mean, I don't know whether he wrote it or whether he co-wrote it, but he certainly narrates the audiobook. But it's very well written and it's very concise and it draws you in. I've listened to a lot of these rock biographies, and sometimes they just go on and on and on. This is very to the point, and I mean it's 10 hours long as these audiobooks are. But I highly recommend you listen to it. I find it an very engaging listen.
Well, there we go. All right. Well, do you have any other bit of music news you'd like to leave the people with?
Yeah, I have one other thing. So this is some interesting information that came out this week. Okay. So Van Halen, the band Van Halen, as you know, we lost Eddie Van Halen a few years ago. It's incredibly sad. And the last album they released was in 2012, which is called A Different Kind of Truth. And this was seen as a comeback album of sorts. It was lots of old demos reworked. Wolfgang Van Halen played bass, and David Lee Roth was the singer, original singer, and then he reunited with them a number of years before. Now, Alex Van Halen had a book out recently called Brothers, which was his autobiography, and it spoke about, the early days of the band and his relationship with his brother and all this sort of stuff. But he gave an interview in Holland, because he speaks Dutch, obviously, to say that he is currently working on a new Van Halen album. And this Van Halen album is comprised of music which Eddie Van Halen has been working on but had not yet finished. And the interesting thing about it is Steve Lukather, the guitarist from Toto, who is a fabulous producer and songwriter in his own right, is the one who's going to be working on it. So,
that's cool.
So it's assumed Eddie is going to be playing the bulk of the guitar on it. and then maybe Luke will be filling in some of the gaps, or maybe he's just compiling the tapes. We don't know how that's going to be, but it's very exciting. There was it was hot news in the Van Halen world this week.
I mean, that's very up Tim's alley. I mean, that sounds fun. I love it. I appreciate it. I'm ready to see what happens.
Yeah, be very very interesting. I mean, a lot of the purists are saying, "Oh, you should leave it alone. You shouldn't get involved in that." But I don't know. I mean, if Alex wants to do it and there's stuff on tape and that could be shared, well, we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I'm going to say something controversial because this is our podcast and I say what I want. Nothing I've ever said here has ever come back to bite me, Tim. Insert everybody. I get messages from people who listen to the podcast on Messenger telling me, Joy, you're wrong. But I mean, the thing about it is I don't do what you want, Tim. Does it really matter?
Sure. I mean, if a new Van Halen album comes out and it's compiled from offcuts and it's got Steve Lukather playing on it, guess what? Your record collection of old Van Halen songs doesn't go anywhere.
Well, I'm going to say something that, like, I made that joke, but I didn't mean it sarcastically. With me, what I think, what is the defining thing about music as a whole, or any form of art, is that it is up to interpretation. And that means that there will be later interpretations and, like, more... like, you know what I'm saying, Tim? Like, I feel as an artist, I can take something and I can make my own of things, and that's okay. Art in and of itself, when I was going to theater school, right, one of the biggest things they preached at us was, like, don't worry so much about what the original writer of this play thought. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It comes down to how you take that, how you interpret it, how you use it to say your message or make your art or maybe make your song in this case or whatever. And I truly believe that. I think good art, Tim, is evolving. I don't think it's stagnant. If it's not good art, then it won't evolve. But in my mind, if I write a song or I do a book or I make a play or whatever, Tim, if it's not evolving, then I think that's a problem. Is that wrong?
No,
are they coming for me, Tim?
No, I think you're right. I think art does evolve. It doesn't stay stagnant. Of course, any piece of art that's been created, it's a snapshot of that time. But often the thought of that art will evolve. But like I said, I mean, people probably want this.
I didn't pay Tim anything for that, guys.
No, and I mean, Alex probably wants to release this stuff. So I mean, like I said, you don't have to listen to it if you don't want to.
That's exactly what I was getting at. And I didn't mean that sarcastically. I was just making a point on why I think that that's cool and I love it. So with that being said, Tim, did you have anything else for the people or would you like me to go into my things?
Yeah. What music news items do you have, Joy?
So I have two things. I have one bit of music news and one bit of personal news. And it's ironic you talk about books or things that you're listening to and you recommend to the people because my mother for Christmas had got me Michael McDonald's actual biography. It's called What a Fool Believes. Mm-hmm. It's actually really good, Tim. I have been dedicated to it. I had put it on the shelf because, to be honest, no offense, Mom, it was one of the things you gave me for Christmas. It looked really great, but I kind of set to the side and ignored it for like a few months or whatever. Yeah. Picked it up the other day and I have been like, when I say I have not put it down, I have not put it down. It is a great, I don't know if it's a biography, bibliography, whatever. I don't know if he wrote it himself or somebody else wrote it for him. Mm-hmm. Don't come from the internet. I think there's somebody called Paul Reisner, not Paul Eisner. That's a different person. Paul Reisner, who is like either like a ghostwriter or something of that nature. So I can't remember which one it was, but he talks about unbelievable. There's stories about James Taylor, Ray Charles, Carly Simon, Quincy Jones. Like when I say, Tim, your next Spotify listen should be What a Fool Believes, because what's so interesting to me, and maybe in some way I knew this, Hollywood is smaller than we realized, Tim. Every person has some kind of like, does that make sense, Tim? Like relation, like, obviously, we all know who Michael McDonald is, right? Mm-hmm. What a Fool Believes is obviously on that. Hey, it keeps running. You belong to me. You know what I mean? There's like endless things. He has a very smooth baritone voice that we all know. And weirdly enough, I still think of Jimmy Fallon does his version of Michael McDonald which makes me want to scream because it's actually really bad. But anyway, sorry, Jimmy Fallon. But for some reason, they always make him do it. Have you heard it, Tim? You've heard it, right?
Yeah, I have. I mean,
Michael McDonald is not great.
Yeah, he does good impersonations, but maybe this isn't his best one.
Well, I think that it's just It's like a walking cliche. Does that make sense to him? Like, for lack of a better way of saying it. But anyway, if you like to listen to this, even if you don't like to read, because Tim has talked about how on Spotify you have these books that you can get that are like an audio book. It's on there. Please, if you are like me and you adore musician stories, which I do. I've talked about this in the podcast. It's a great one. The most other one I recently listened to was the Britney one. I've talked about that. So that's a personal thing. Now, on to the music news that's more recent is Iron Maiden. I don't know why I said it like that. Celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2025. Did you know that, Tim?
I could believe that. I mean, they're very much the institution when it comes to the world of hard rock heavy metal, or new wave of British heavy metal, as they were called at the time. I mean, you think they're kind of a new band, but no.
No.
I mean, Iron Maiden have been around since the 70s.
So anyway, their 50th anniversary is in 2025, and as everyone does in today's age, they have a new documentary coming out.
Interesting.
Directed by Michael Vin, I don't know, something that sounds French. I'm not going to try to say it. That yet untitled film will dig into the Iron Maiden's remarkable 50-year history legacy, telling the story from the perspective of the band and the fans. This is actually coming from this guy. Including famous ones like, Gene Simmons and so forth and so on, like famous fans. They'll be there talking, of course. The film will also feature key interviews with key members throughout the band's run, including the last original vocalist with Paul Di'Anno, and who died last year, for those who don't know. Di'Anno, Tim could probably say it better than I did, but it's not related. The lead singer... if you know anything about what Tim said of Iron Maiden. On top of that, the documentary will boast a plethora of rival kind of like footage people haven't seen, unreleased things, so on and so forth, right? And it features Iron Maiden's mascot, Eddie. Yep. I think Tim knows what I meant by that, but that's what they're going for. I'll be interested to see if it's more of like a biopic, because from what I'm getting, it's more of a documentary, Tim. It's not going to be like that classic other thing. To be fair, I don't think Iron Maiden has enough to make like a full movie, kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm just going to say it. For Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody, I just don't think Iron Maiden has that enough of a lore behind it, but I do want to watch it because I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think they probably would. The problem is that I don't know whether it would have mass appeal for a biopic. I mean, certainly within the circles that love Iron Maiden, I think a biopic would work. But it's not the sort of thing that is mainstream enough to really for other people to see it.
I think that makes sense. I mean, they obviously, for those who don't know, I feel like I'm going to say this and it seems obvious, but I'll just put it out there. Iron Maiden is an English kind of. So for those who don't know, there's debate on what's heavy metal, right, Tim? We'll never really know. But Iron Maiden is like the formidable kind of heavy metal for a lot of people. They came from East London in 1975. You know what I mean? You had your primary singer-songwriter Steve Harris, and I think he played bass. Is that right, Tim?
I mean, Iron Maiden basically is Steve Harris's band. He's the primary songwriter. He's been the constant all the way through it with various different personnel changes, and it really is his band.
And then you've got Bruce and Nico, and there's just like back and forth, and it was kind of this thing that I think that there was a new wave of British heavy metal movement. But like for those who don't know, and what's super interesting, this is one of those bands, Tim, that if I didn't know they were British, like if I didn't know that, I wouldn't think they were, because they have such a lore in America. It might be hard for me to know. They are from England, obviously. I just said they're from London. And so they also are one of those bands that has 74 past members. There's a lot of past members. But yeah, I'll be curious to see I would love to see a biopic, and I just thought that was super interesting. So coming forward in the near future, we will have a biopic from Iron Maiden. And then, of course, if anybody here is into reading or wants to use their Spotify hours, as Tim has told you guys, we get every month. What a Fool Believes, a memoir by Michael McDonald, is wonderful.
There we are. That's Joy's book tip of the week.
I mean, is it of the week? Do I do one every week? We'll never know. All right, what's next, Tim? Right now in this moment. All right, well, it is Tim's topic. He's very excited about this one, guys. He told me it's a very interesting one, so we will go from there.
Okay, so this topic has got the potential to go off the rails a bit, but we will see what happens. So we have spoken many times
We would
on this
never,
podcast.
Tim. We have never went off the rails. I don't know what he's talking about, guys. That's not true. Continue.
Yeah, we have spoken many times on this podcast about US rock radio. Okay. And we've spoken about the fact that they only ever play the same 10 songs in a loop. So I thought this would be an interesting thing to do. Now, it may work, it may not work. This episode may end up with a few clunky edits in it. I don't know how this is going to work. But I have currently got in front of me our local rock station here in Virginia. WROV 96.3 ROV. And it is part of the iHeartMedia, iHeartRadio empire.
I'm already feeling a lot of rage, like coming from I don't know why, Tim. I have a lot of thoughts. Continue.
Yeah. So I've got up here on the screen the songs as they are being played live. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to talk about the songs as they are playing them. Now, or as they have played them, should I say. There's a list up that says recently played. And I'm going to pick from the top of that list and then hit refresh and wait for the next one to come. So it will be interesting because, well, one, we can tell the people who don't live in the United States about how incredibly tedious and predictable US rock radio is. And also it adds the element of surprise because none of us know what's going to come up.
Also, we made Tim predicting it's Journey coming. We'll never know. All right, let's do this, Tim. I'm very excited. This is fun.
Yeah, you never know. So I'm gonna just reopen the page, fresh.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, and we're gonna go on air, and we're gonna go music, and we're gonna go recently played.
I love that he's taking a chance. If you change your mind, I'll be first in line. Anyway.
Okay, so here we go. So this is the last song that was played, and it is from our friends in YouTube, from the Joshua Tree. And this is the song I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
I mean, Tim, where do we begin on how obvious that is? But the thing I struggle with is, do you think, I mean, I don't know. In and of itself, Joshua Tree cracks me up because have you ever been to Joshua Tree, Tim? Have you seen it?
No, I've never been to the Joshua Tree National Park, which is where
I
it's situated.
haven't either. I kind of want to, but it's just one of those things that I feel like it's becoming a walking cliche in some weird way. And I wonder about okay, I want to say something. They're going to come for me, Tim. This is going to be an episode where I am struggling, but that's okay, guys, because just hold out and you'll get the joke. The joke is there, everyone. I'm not saying this anyway. Do you feel like the trees in Joshua Tree know that they become a walking cliche at this point? Because I know they haven't, but because they have though, Tim. They have.
I think the trees are probably blissfully unaware, thankfully.
Do you think that they know that they are hierarchy in trees? We've got Joshua trees at the top. Like, what is happening in that forest? That in 1987, sorry, I had to cough for a second, guys. I didn't mean to cough in your ear. But in 1987, they had to write a song about this. And why, or an album. But why is the Joshua Tree? I don't get it, Tim. What am I missing?
I don't know. Special? All I know is that when they came out with the album Actung Baby, Bono said this is the album where we burn down the Joshua Tree.
Why would they burn them down?
Because they were talking about they completely changed their direction. So he was making a metaphor. It wasn't literally.
Oh, because Bono speaks in hyperbolics. Okay, whatever. That sounds right. Bono. He's like Bobo the Clown to me at this point. Whatever his name is. He's one of those people that like I think he means well, Tim, but I also kind of want to be like, could you not?
Yeah, we covered that extensively on our last episode, I seem to remember.
All right, we'll give us the next one. But of course, it's the dang Joshua Tree. Also, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Anyway.
There we are. And there was a spitting image parody of that song because I still don't know what I'm singing about. But there we are. That's a story for another time. Okay, so I've hit refresh. We have a
episode.
fresh and crispy song from WROV, the Rock of Virginia.
No.
And this would be from the album Are You Experience, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and the song Fire.
I mean, it all fits a very much thing me and Tim have ever told anybody who listens to this podcast. What plays on Southwest Virginia radio? Am I crazy?
Yeah, it's as we go through this episode, there's nothing on here which is surprising whatsoever. Everything is incredibly predictable. It's like you can program these radio stations with 15 songs.
Like, I know we make jokes about AI, but I feel like in some way radio stations have been doing it forever. And this is on the Experience album, I would imagine. I didn't know that for sure, but that sounds right for Jimi Hendrix. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those songs that, like, I can think of the lyrics. Listen here, baby, stop acting crazy, or whatever he said.
Yeah, and this is
predictable.
Yeah, this is a song which is in the UK cover band set list. I've played this song many, many times.
Okay. Is it only UK bands or is it American bands?
I've never played it here. I've never seen any cover bands here play it, though I can think of several UK cover bands that I played it with, let alone other bands that played it.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, is Jimi Hendrix more of a UK band experience, you feel, or is it more American? Like, I don't know. Jimi Hendrix is one of those kind of like people in my mind. And I'm just going to say this. I was born in Florida. I grew up in Southwest Virginia. So I do have that perspective. But Jimi Hendrix is somebody that I feels him had about 20 minutes of fame and did a lot of cool things. But like, he's not like, do you know what I mean? Like, he has like a moment, but it's just a moment. And so I feel like in America, he kind of like got put on that shelf and like, he's cool. He did the guitar thing. He played in a very out of tune version of the national anthem for everybody who doesn't know. And Tim, and for those who are laughing, that's true, right, Tim? It was very out of tune. Like, it's not a joke.
I mean, the version of the national anthem.
Don't play games with me. You know it was.
No, it was terrible. But people say, "Oh no, he was the spirit of the Vietnam era. He was channeling this. He was channeling
the dude
that."
was on drugs and just did what he did.
Yeah, I am not a Jimi Hendrix fan at all. You when you tell guitar players that you don't like Jimi Hendrix,
I love that we're going down this road because it's making me happy.
They look at you like your head's on fire or something.
No,
I just.
It's kind of like when me and Tim are huge Beatles fan when we talk about John Lennon wasn't a good person. Like the two things can be true, right, Tim? You can like the Beatles and admit that John Lennon wasn't a good person. You could also admit that Jimi Hendrix did a lot of great things for guitar and music, but he might not have been the greatest guitarist in the world.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll just say that I'm not a Jimi Hendrix fan at all.
Me either, but continue.
No, I mean, if you want to look at somebody who redefined rock guitar, you should look at Eddie Van Halen.
Well, I don't think, sorry, I did not mean to cut you off, Tim. I don't think that I just like, and this is Tim's bread and butter, so I should really let him speak more. But what I was going to say is, I don't think that is in my mind, and you can tell me from a guitarist perspective because you have a better, like, comprehension. I don't necessarily think that he's the best guitarist. I think he's just iconic in the sense that he fit a space in the moment.
Yeah, he was probably he was unique in his time. Certainly, many will say that what he did at the time was very unique, and he was a pioneer. And one thing that he has in his favor, sadly, he died very young. So you have his legend, which continues.
And that's important. It's important to look for.
Yeah, but from a technical perspective, his playing was very sloppy. He was mostly out of tune when he played live, and his techniques these days are nothing like what modern players can do.
And that's not to insult. So one thing someone's going to come through, and they're going to say this, Tim, and I'm just going to put this out here now, because I know me and Tim are going to get hate for this. We're going to be on the list of anti-Jimi Hendrix people or whatever. But it's not to say that we don't like Jimi Hendrix. What me and Tim are trying to say, and what I'm glad Tim said as a musician, is there was a place and a time for what Jimi Hendrix did. But that does not mean that he is with Steve, like, it doesn't mean that he's with the greats of the world, right? Like, we don't have to put him up on a pedestal in guitar world, but that doesn't mean that what he did wasn't important and didn't produce a movement and didn't speak to people and didn't do great things. It's kind of like when we talk about different other musicians where there's times. So a good example is like, basically everybody on the Forever 27 list, right, Tim, who had a moment in time that was really important. And I don't mean that to insult them, and I don't think that's insulting. He's a great example of that. But that doesn't mean they have like lifelong iconic status in my mind. Is that bad, Tim?
No, and like I said, I mean, like we said earlier, art is very open to interpretation, and it's you like what you like. But as I said, I'm not a fan. And if you said you say that to other guitar players and they look at you weird.
They do. I mean, think about like Janis Joplin. She had like Me and Bobby McGee and like different songs that are like really important in my, like, I guess in my stratosphere. I even remember my father like singing these songs when I was younger. Like he loved these songs and she has like a cool voice. But when you looked at her from a technical standpoint, Tim, it's not great. Like Janis Joplin did not have a good voice from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to the recordings of Janis Joplin, and it is a little pitchy here and there, it's fair to say, but it's Janis Joplin, for goodness sake.
Well, who cares? Because it's Janis. That's what I'm saying. She had her moment in time, and she's wonderful, Tim. I don't mean that equate to that makes her bad. That's my vocalist example of what you were saying with Jimi Hendrix, right? Like she had a moment in time that was really important. Me and Bobby McGee, Piece of My Heart, Cry Baby, Summer Day. Piece of My Heart is a wonderful freaking song, and it does require someone with great vocal chops. It's not to insult her in a way, but it's not always dead on. Do you know what I mean? Crystal clear and wonderful. There was something to be said about, I think, from that 60s to 70s thing with Jimi Hendrix, though, that a lot of it was about feeling. And that's important. So do not come for me. Me and Tim are not saying we don't like Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. All right, what's next? Well, Tim may have said it's not his favorite. Continue, but that's on Tim, not on me.
There we are. All right. Well, I've hit F5 for refresh. WROV continues to broadcast, and the last song that they played was from the album Agents of Fortune. That would be Blue Oyster Cult, and the song Don't Fear the Reaper.
Okay, so I have so many weird things about Oyster Cult. They're one of those bands, Tim, that like I like. I mean, Don't Fear the Reaper, Burning for You, Godzilla, I Love the Night, Take Me Away. There's a lot of songs, right, Tim? I don't feel like I need to tell you that. There's even that one veteran of Psych Wars or something. I don't know. They're cool. But for me, they're once again in a vacuum. But there are a subset of people in the world who absolutely adore BOC. Like there are like diehard Blue Oyster Cult fans that I'm not sure I quite get it, Tim.
Yeah, so they had a bit of a sort of a renaissance because their keyboardist guitarist is a guy called Richie Castellano who has a podcast and YouTube channel called Band Geek, and he is a fabulous guitar player, great singer. He makes funny videos. He does all sorts of things, and his sort of day job, if you like, is playing guitar and keyboards for Blue Oyster Cult. And they came to Roanoke a few years ago.
The irony is cult at the end of that, by the way.
Yeah, and they played at Elmwood Park, which is a stage I've played on many times, which is like an amphitheater in central Roanoke. And I had a gig that night, and I think there was some special deal where the tickets were only $5. It was a sponsored performance, and some local business or Carillion or someone sponsored it, and the tickets were very cheap. And I really wanted to go and see them, and apparently they put on an absolutely fantastic gig. And Richie in particular was a real high point of that show. But yes, there is a lot of these bands like this are still out there. They're still getting it done.
Richie Castillo or whatever.
It's Richie Castellano.
Okay, that's his name. Okay.
Yeah. And they're still out there getting it done. They still have a big fan base behind them. And in fact, Blue Oyster Cult released a new album a number of years ago too.
Are they still the same band though, Tim? Or is it one of those ones you get past members? Or like, I really don't know.
I think Buck Dharma, the singer guitar player, is
Hmm.
still in BOC, and I think some of the other members are still the same. But I think there's a core which have been there from the beginning, but a
Okay.
few members have come, a few members have gone. You know, they're a lot like Styx in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
where they
that
have a
makes
cult
sense.
following and they've had some hits, and then
Or like Rush or something. Yeah.
well, Rush was always the three of them. They never
Oh, yeah, that's a
they
bad
had a
example.
different
They
drummer.
haven't had the people. Yeah, you're
Yeah, they
right.
had a different drummer at the very, very beginning of their career, but they were pretty much the three
Kirk
of
is
them
a
all the way
great
through.
drummer, or whatever
Yeah.
they say. What is the guy's name? What is his name?
Neil
From
Peart was the
I
drummer in
Perth.
Rush.
That's what I said. Perth, like it's like Perth. Whatever his name is. The reason I say that, Tim, is I was watching. Okay, for those who were yelling at me like, "Joy, you sound stupid." I know I sound stupid. But the reason I said that was I was watching a Family Guy episode yesterday, Tim, and they
Hmm.
were making fun of Rush, and he was like, "Neil Peart is the Rush drummer of all time."
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why that was in my head,
Yeah,
and nobody
Neil
else
Peart
got
was
that.
an amazing drummer. He was
He actually was.
and a songwriter as well. He wrote most of those Rush songs.
And I mean, Monday morning, I mean, I can't. So it's kind of like I think of Rush, not that this isn't. So actually, this is related. When I think of Oyster Cult, the same subset of people who are obsessed with Blue Oyster Cult are the same people I think that are obsessed with Rush. And then they also segue Tim into the same people who love Pink Floyd. And maybe I'm wrong, but I always think they're like on the same level. Is that
Yeah, I
weird that I
mean,
associate them all together?
certainly similar people would like that music. I mean, I think the
Might just
Rush,
be that's what my husband likes.
yeah, the Rush fan base was probably much larger or continues to be much larger than Blue Oyster
I'm
Cult
sure.
ever was.
But what I was going to say though is what's interesting about Blue Oyster Cult is they had so whenever they had early adopters to like music video, and they actually had a big predecessor. And the thing that made Blue Oyster Cult very popular was in the early '90s, and and they had a big heavy rotation on MTV. And I only learned about this recently because I don't know why I kind of associate Ulster, y'all. That's what the oysters are. Oh, that B. I'm just gonna say BOC because I can't
BOC would be
say.
much easier.
Anyway, the cult members. That's not weird at all. But the thing about it is I don't associate them with MTV. But whenever I was looking at when I was doing the MTV episode, I learned that they had a big. Like, I don't know. I can't, in my mind, Tim, I cannot think of one blue Ulster court cult. I can't say it, Tim.
BOC, Joy. Just go with BOC.
BOC. I can't say that. But I can't think of one music video. I just can't. Do you remember anything from MTV? Because they said they had a heavy rotation, but I don't remember it.
No, I not in the slightest.
Okay, good. Then I'm not crazy. But apparently they did everybody. It's when I did the episode, they were on there. But yeah, so that's not related, and we're just gonna move along because we spent way too many times with me trying to pronounce Blue Oyster Cult.
There we go. All right. Well, let's move on to the next song. I've just hit refresh,
Okay, what's next?
and it's come up here. The last song that WROV played was The Police and Don't Stand So Close to Me.
Don't stand so don't so I have a very weird thought about this, Tim. So I was watching this show and it's like a murder mystery show that came out recently. And it was like, oh God, what was it called? Hold on. Let me get the official name, everybody. But anyway, in the episode, the Sting is there.
Mm-hmm.
And the elevator of the episode, the guy has his dog, and he's trying not to acknowledge that Sting is sitting beside it, but he knows it's Sting, and he's like, he's going, "Don't stand so," like he's just singing it behind him because like Sting is standing right beside him. And like he has a little dog, and he's just trying to be like, and Sting's like trying so hard, Tim, to ignore him. And the whole joke is Sting's like, please leave me alone, right? Like that was the joke of the. It was a recent TV show. I have to listen. Hold on. Only murderers in the building, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll look it up in a minute. But guys, that was one of the funniest movies for me because, to be honest, I've never really seen Sting in a TV show, Tim, but he did a really good job of like trying to ignore the dude and be like, leave me alone. And that just happened on a TV show I was watching the other day. And it's super cute because, when everybody thinks of the police, I think they instantly think of the soccer song. I don't think they think of Don't Stand So Close to Me anyway.
Yeah, I mean the police had some incredible music, absolutely fantastic music.
Absolutely,
and
Tim.
I mean all of the musicians in the police were fabulous. Stuart Copeland, the drummer, I mean, is probably the standout musician of the lot. And I mean, Sting is fabulous, written great songs, bass player, musician, etc. But Stuart
very
Copeland,
distinct in and of itself, yeah.
yeah. But Stuart Copeland, absolute virtuoso drummer, and he also scores movie scores as well.
The TV show is Only Murders in the Building, so I was correct in that. And it's literally like a murder mystery about like true crime podcasts, Tim, which irony, right? But anyway, I just thought it was cute that like there's this be in New York and they own it's an expensive building, right, Tim? And then like and it's Martin Short. And he's just in there singing. He's like, and like Sting's sitting there and he's trying his hardest to ignore me. He's like, don't stand so. It was really funny. Like, like one of those things that like you don't want to end it. It was funny, but they did a really good job. Like, does that make sense though? Like, it was actually really funny in the moment. I was laughing. Also, I'm just going to say it. Sting is one of those people that like, I feel like he isn't that great of a singer.
Well, Stinger has a very unique voice. He has a kind of reggae kind of sound to his voice, and certainly early Police was a lot more like that. As he got into more of his solo work, his voice did change a little bit. I don't know. I would disagree with you, Joy. I mean, he's not Freddie Mercury, but he has a very unique voice. And if you think about, we've spoken about Dire Straits in the past, he sings the high parts on Money for Nothing.
Well, I think that he is technically, so let me reset this. The internet's screaming at me right now. Don't come for me, internet. Put down your bingo card. But what I don't mean that I don't think that he's technically a bad singer. Let me reset this. I think he's one of those people that I think in and of itself, when we're going to talk about MTV, like MTV made Police. So let's start there. But he has that raspy, rockier edge to his voice. I think he conveys a message, but I don't think that he's always technically great. But when he uses his falsetto, which is what Tim's talking about, doing those backup vocals, it's actually quite good.
Yeah.
He does have the ability to understand that, so that sound, that was a really bad version. Internet, do not come for me. That is not how Sting sounds when it does the falsetto. But what I was getting at, though, is Tim's right. I don't think that it's that he's bad, but I think that I feel like he's a better songwriter than he is a singer. I really do, Tim. I do. But that could just be me and my biases. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe like if I ever heard him sing like a full operatic thing, maybe I'd be wrong. But sometimes I struggle with that growl he has, that lower baritone sound sometimes. But to be fair, he does a really good job of going from that to his falsetto, right, Tim? So,
Yeah, but
don't come for me, internet. I'm not trying to come for the Sting lovers of the world.
Yeah, but then you listen to something like Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. I mean, I have no complaints on his or any of the performances, especially Stuart Copeland.
Is that really hard to sing, though, Tim?
I don't know, but I don't listen to that thinking, oh, Sting didn't pull that off.
I mean, I guess you're right. Got called out, y'all. But I mean, to be fair, I don't know that it's. I mean, he's not Aretha Franklin, okay?
No, I would agree with that. No.
But the thing about Sting, though, is I also find him to be a really interesting person who does a lot of good things without coming up. So, Rod Stewart and Sting, I find them to be like the same person. Don't cover me, internet. In the sense that I think they do really good things and do a good job at like not making a scene about it. Like if you go look up Rod Stewart and you look up Sting and their philanthropy and like the things they've donated to and the members there, they have a really nice way, unlike Bono, of like not coming off as like condescending because they know they have money. And we've talked about this with some other artists, Tim. Like they know they have money and they know that they want to put their money towards good things and they do good things. Like if you ever look it up, I feel like, and even Elton John's a great example. As much as people say he's a diva, he puts his money towards good things, right, Tim?
Oh, 100%.
And I think Sting does a good job of that.
Yeah, all of those people are philanthropists, 100%. But yes, Sting comes across as less preachy, it's fair to say.
Also, the Police is a really good example. So when I was talking about like the MTV early movement, I think of the Police way more than I would any other artist than like Blue Oyster Cult or anything of that nature. The Police, I think, and actually, Tim and me have talked about this on the podcast, so I'm going to say it again for those who don't know. When MTV came to be in the early 90s, they actually sought out English people from England based artists, right, Tim, to be on the podcast to be on MTV because they had a big thing and music videos. Music videos were much more popular in the UK before they ever came to America, for those who don't know. So they were seeking out these artists.
Yeah, 100%, because the UK had Top of the Pops, and a lot of artists were making videos for Top of the Pops.
So there you go. We've said that on the podcast many times, but I just want to put that out there. Also, if you love Sting's voice and you're yelling at me right now, I don't hate his voice. I just don't think it's that great. Okay, continue. What's next then?
Okay, well, I've just hit refresh. And of course, you couldn't have a US classic rock radio from WROV 96.3, the Rock of Virginia, without having this song that they probably play 3 times an hour.
Oh, no.
And this is Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here.
I mean, I don't even know what I can say about it anymore, Tim, because we've talked about this song so many times. Mid-1970s, Pink Floyd. I don't know.
It's funny that the US rock radio picks out like 2 Pink Floyd songs. They play this, they play Comfortably Numb, and Another Brick in the Wall. And I think that's it. I mean, you think of all of the great music that Pink Floyd has made, and they choose 3 songs.
Now, I'm going to play really stupid, Tim, and you're going to be like, Joy, I don't know how you didn't know this. I only recently learned that Pink Floyd was on Abbey Road studio. Like, I don't know what I thought they were, but I only recently learned that their albums were produced at Abbey Road. Did you know that?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
How did I miss that? I don't know.
Dark Side of the Moon very famously made at Abbey Road.
I don't know how I knew. There was a lot of things that came out of Abbey Road. Like, I'm not stupid, Tim, but I just never made the correlation between Pink Floyd and Abbey Road. So that's my dumb moment.
Abbey Road has been an active EMI studio since the 50s, I think. If you've ever been there, it's just like a large house in St. John's Wood. And it sort of sets back a bit
white
now.
Building.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hoopla around it now because it is the fabled Abbey Road Studios. But I mean, it's been an active studio for years and years.
Now, I've talked very advocaately on this. There's this, it's Miss something. I can't remember what her name is. There is a book that I keep saying podcast because I'm thinking about podcasts. But there's a book that I read, and her name is Miss something. And she was like a member who worked at Abbey Road for years, right, Tim? And she talked there's a whole book about it. It's a wonderful, whatever her name is. I go look her up. Let's look her up. But anyway, when I was reading about her, and I've been for some reason, Pink Floyd must have been in a silo because they just never come up. Like, it's weird because she talks about all these different artists that were on Abbey Road, right? And we could go for days about these different people and different things. But for some reason, Pink Floyd never comes up, Tim. And so I just never associated them with Abbey Road. I don't know. I knew they were English.
Yeah, the thing is, you have to remember is sometimes these albums are made pretty quickly. I mean, I don't know how long Wish You Were Here took to make and record, but I mean, they could have only been in Abbey Road for a week and a half. And I mean, that could have been the end of it.
I have no clue. I have no way of knowing, but it's just really interesting. I don't know. For me, this is so cliche. When I think of Pink Floyd, I instantly think of Roger Waters. And I have a very distinct, I don't know. He kind of just seems like a jerk. I don't know. I
He
don't
is
know.
a very complicated individual, shall we say?
Like, and I think David Gilmour seems like someone I want to hang out
Yeah, David
with.
Gilmour comes across as a very cool dude. And I mean, when you talk about guitar playing, I mean, goodness me, David Gilmour is so good. His playing is so good. His tone, his phrasing, everything about
Everything
it
about
is
it is so
perfect.
good. And then you got Sid Barrett over here. We could get into that for days, right, Tim? Like
Yeah.
we could have a whole podcast on this, which we have before. But I don't know. Something about Pink Floyd is very interesting to me. Like I know a lot about them, but the more I find out about them, the more I realize there's lore that I don't know. I just like I had no clue they were on Abbey Road. I don't know what I thought, Tim, but that
Hmm.
wasn't it. I just didn't know. There you go, guys. I'm admitting my truth. All right, what's next, Tim? I learned that maybe a week
There we go.
ago.
Okay,
What's
so the
next,
next
Tim?
song, which is just played on WROV, the
Mhm.
Rock of Virginia, that would be Green Day and Time of Your Life.
Of course it is. All right, so in the UK, is time of your life used for anything, Tim? Or is that strictly an American thing when you're graduating from school and that has to play in the background
No,
mixed with
that
vitamin C?
this is a exclusive United States thing. I mean, I'd heard of this song, but it doesn't have the same thing about it in the UK.
So, what the most annoying part of Time of Your Life, Good Riddance, whatever you want to call it, right? From the late 90s, is that obviously it's been used since the beginning of time. And we got Billy Joel Armstrong, Trey Cool, Mike Jennings, they all wrote this song. And it's a great song. Like, it is a wonderful song. But I could never hear it again, I'd be completely happy. Because in America, there are two songs. If you are graduating, or if you're moving on, or anything, or I don't even know, but you have to be graduating. Let's say you just want to put a video up of you on holiday in Canada, right?
Hmm.
Good riddance, some of our lives. The other one, though, that is super interesting, and we're going to go down a rabbit hole because I never made Tim go down this because we talked about this one before. One time when we were talking about the podcast, Good Riddance came up. And this was from like what, 1998, 1999, 1997, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
That's about when Good Riddance came out. Vitamin C's graduation song. Tim didn't know what I was talking about. I still don't think he does.
Well, I mean, I heard it, and you played it to me, but it's nothing that I'd ever heard prior to you telling me about it.
It is. So it's either you get graduation song or you get Good Riddance. You don't have anything else in America to paint that picture. I don't know why. Is there a UK equivalent to that? I can't.
I don't think so because graduation when I went to school wasn't even a thing. As I said
Mhm.
before, my last day at Lambton School, I went in and picked up my exam results, and then I went home. That was it.
Well, it's very like you're in Harry Potter world, but we're not going to talk about it. It's not. It's not prejudice to say that everybody in the UK is in Harry Potter world. And you got your owls and you left. I don't know. But anyway, so those who don't know who are listening in the UK, go listen to the graduation song for Thieves for It's Forever, and then go listen to Green Day Good Riddance, and you'll know that literally sums up like 90% of the American experience in American high school. I don't know why, Tim. I didn't pick it. It's just a thing that happened.
There we are.
Also, though, like, do you think anyone in the UK? Because vitamin C, I think, is from the UK. Do you think
I,
anybody in the UK knows her?
I don't know. I'd never heard of that person at all.
Okay, let's look up. Let's see. I need to know, is vitamin C the artist? Because I think she speaks with a British accent from
Yeah.
England. I could be crazy.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Oh, no, she's not. I made it all up. Continue, everybody. I thought she spoke with a British accent, but apparently she just did a song that sounds Jamaican and it might be racist. All right, moving along.
Okay, so let's move on to the next song. So the last song that was played on WROV
Oh, no.
would be Three Doors Down, and that would be Kryptonite.
And if I still crazy, well, we had a whole conversation about why kryptonite was
Yeah, that was only
copyrighted.
that was a few episodes ago. But as I said, Normally, when I pick out songs and pick out artists for an episode, I try and steer clear of some of the things that we've spoken about recently. But
But
we are
this,
listening to this live as it happens on WROV, the Rock of Virginia, listening to their predictable playlist, and Kryptonite is playing right now.
do you think that there was like actually three doors? Like that's what they came up with the name. Like how did that happen?
I mean, I don't know this for a fact. Maybe one of them lived three doors down from the next one or something.
That sounds accurate. Because they also had that "Here Without You, Baby," and "So With You." You know what I mean? Tim, that song, that was another one. Then I think there's another one called like "When I'm Gone." I mean, for me, in all seriousness, though, growing up in America, this was like very formative age. So I have talked about on this podcast, there is a subset of music that I don't care for. It is post-grunge, hard rock, alternative rock. It is Three Doors Down. It is Hinder. It is Buck Cherry. It is, you know what I mean, Tim? I don't know how best to say that. There's a predecessor of music that like I struggle with. But to be fair, Three Doors Down is one that lives rent free in my head, whether I like it or whether I don't. When I'm gone, here without you, baby. Like I just can't outrun it. For better or for worse, it will always be around. I mean, I guess if I move out of the country, maybe, but.
Well, I can tell you, Joy, breaking news. This is breaking news just coming in. The band Three Doors Down got their name after seeing a building in Foley, Alabama, with a sign that read "Doors Down" after some letters has fallen off, and the band consisted of three members at the time, so they added the number 3.
I mean, that's very logical. That is better than how I came up with my band name when I was in high school. And what I mean by that, I mean, we and Brittany opened up a Guitar World magazine, and Brittany put her finger on one and I put my finger on the other. And we had control issues, but didn't really make it. It's fine, guys. I mean, I will say, I still think it's better than Flaker Hill. That sounds like you're coughing.
Yeah, as I said before, I don't think that's a good band name.
Tim on that one. I'm sorry. We'll move along. It does. It sounds like phlegm, Tim. It does.
Yeah, well, absolutely 100%. But I'm not in that band anymore, Joy, so I won't disparage it any further.
Also, they were a really good band. The lead singer was wonderful. It's just not my favorite band name.
Absolutely.
All right, what's next, Tim?
Okay, so it's currently playing right now. It's not even previously played. It's currently playing right now. WROV are currently playing Eric Clapton and Cocaine.
Okay, well, if you're going to play an Eric Clapton song, that's right on the money there, Tim. So I struggle with the fact that Eric Clapton is terrible. He's a horrible person.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken in the past about, things he's done in the past, the opinion points he's had recently, things he's done. He is not a good person at all. I mean, you talk about guitar players. Now, he had a lot of fire early in his career when he was in Cream and when he was in John Mayall's Blues Breakers. He had an awful lot of fire in his playing. And when he came out of Cream and was sort of getting involved with Delaney and Bonnie.
I mean, Sunshine of Your Love is a great song, I just want to say.
And also Derek and the Dominoes. And then you start getting into mediocre, middle-of-the-road Eric Clapton. And I always called him the guitar hero for the man in the street. His guitar playing, especially contemporary Eric Clapton, leaves me very much cold. I mean, even Journeyman, 80s era Eric Clapton had a little bit more fire to it. I don't know. It just, for me, Eric Clapton the Eric Clapton experience is not necessary for me. But that said, there are a number of Eric Clapton songs I like and I continue to listen to, but I do try and detach the art from the artist.
So for those who don't know much about Eric Clapton, we'll start back with, he originally started with the Yardbirds, right? Like that's kind of the predecessor Eric Clapton moment. And obviously Eric Clapton, for those who don't know, he comes from England. I think he's from London.
He's from Surrey.
Okay, well, Tim will be more correct. You got Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, right, Tim? Who else was in there? Jim McCarty or whatever his name was. Anyway, we have that the Yardbirds were wonderful, and they had a predecessor of a lot of good people. And they also had the same bowl haircuts. I've never seen a picture of them. That was a joke, everybody. I thought somebody would laugh because Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and Eric Clapton all had. I would say, Tim, if you were looking at like people who just on the surface knew guitarists and they were kind of getting a guitar word, what are we looking at? Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page, like summarize it all, right? Are they not known as like the greats of the greats? I could be wrong, but I think so. Of course,
yeah, all of those absolute legends. The thing is that Jeff Beck is probably the best guitarist of the lot, but he's the one that doesn't get the kudos generally.
Because he didn't really go outside of it, Tim. It was more guitar.
Yeah, he made guitar music for guitarists rather than Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page made music that was more accessible. But I said Eric Clapton, but that said, all of them would tell you that Jeff Beck was the best guitarist of the lot.
And yes, I think Tim is correct. And so for those who don't know, I feel like you guys should all know if you listen to our podcast, but maybe you don't, that you have from, obviously, we keep saying Jimmy Page. I assume you guys all know that means Led Zeppelin. I don't know if that's true, but of course it does. And then Jimmy, and then we have Jeff Beck, who kind of went on. And Tim has we've talked about him on the podcast 1,000 times. You've seen him live. Like, he does guitar music for guitar people. And that's just the truth of the matter. And then, of course, you have Eric Clapton. Now, I grew up in a house who loves Eric Clapton. I've talked about many times. I was literally almost named Layla, like this close. I'm named from Joy to the World. I was also named after the baby who died on the Waltons. That's a whole debate. And then my twin sister's named after Brandy from the Fine Young Looking Glass. So we came from music and musicians. That is a known thing in my house. So I grew up listening to a lot of his music. And the thing about Eric Clapton is honestly, I'm just disappointed. Like, when I see him do this stuff to him and just like do the opposite of like who I think he should be as a person, it really just like makes me sad because he came from like the psychedelic, cool 60s, for the people vibe, right, Tim? Like the Yardbirds, and then you've got the Blues Breakers, right? And different things like that. Cream, Tim said Cream earlier. And then Derek and the Dominoes, and then, well, is it okay for me to be disappointed in him? I don't know.
No, absolutely. It's fine. I do think that with Eric Clapton, to some degree, you have to remove the art from the artist.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
He's said some terrible things and he's done lots of things that are not cool. But I think he's one of these people that you can successfully remove the art from the artist and enjoy some of his art. I mean, as I said, I don't find him a particularly inspiring guitarist at this point. And a lot of the guitar community has turned away from him from his comments of recently and from in the past. But, he's a name, he's a legend, but I don't know. He's not the legend that he's made out to be.
Now, one cool thing, and I think Tim probably knows this, we've probably talked about this, it may have come up. With Eric Clapton, I really, really do like his version of Bo Diddley's I'm a Man. Have you ever heard that, Tim?
Yeah.
It's actually really good. Now, it is a very repetitive, structured kind of song with like solos and instrumental parts, but I actually really do like Eric Clapton's version. So take from this what you want. I think Tim's right. You have to move away from the artist, from the art. It's okay to be disappointed. I was disappointed because I think the thing that what hurts is for me when you see somebody, and I had this problem with Michael Jackson, right? He says a lot of things that I want to be a good, like he says things that make him sound like a good person, right, Tim? Or like has these thoughts and these moments of liberation. They're like, that sounds really good, but take it with a grain of salt because you never know. Also, John Lennon punched people in the face, as me and Tim have told you. So,
absolutely.
I feel like when we die, Tim, our podcast will be like, Dolly's amazing. John Lennon punched people in the face.
There we go. That would be your two key takeaways.
And maybe Yoko wasn't that bad. All right, continue.
Okay, so I think we have time for two more songs from our friends at WROV.
This podcast has went off the record trails.
Yeah. The last song that they played, this is a classic rock radio staple that seems to, again, played 3 or 4 times an hour, it seems. This is Billy Idol, and this is Rebel Yell.
So I have a very distinct memory of the song. I've talked about this, I think, a few times. When I was in high school, we had this one teacher, and I think, Tim, she meant well, but she weirdly wanted to be like the popular kid's favorite teacher. I don't know if that makes sense, Tim. I think she played into that, but she wasn't necessarily a bad person. And she, when we would need a DJ, she'd be the person who would DJ. Her name is Miss Mullins. Sorry if you listen to this podcast, but I actually don't like you, so take it with a grain of salt. Miss Mullins, if you're listening, I still hold a grudge because here's why I hold a grudge to him. She did that thing where like everybody thought she was a good DJ, but like we've talked about this a lot of modern day DJs just press the play button, Tim. And so there's a thing with that. And then she was also just like not a great teacher. I mean, if Miss Mullins is listening, I'm going to get eaten alive, Tim, but there is a reason for this. So I feel like she wanted to be popular with the kids for whatever reason. And I feel like she played into that. And every Friday, she was my, and for those who don't know this, Joy is actually good at math. Like I was very good at math. Tim knows this. I used to do payroll for our company. Like I'm not a bad math. I love algebra. Like I actually like these things, but she was my algebra teacher in high school. And, she would on Fridays do a music trivia like course or whatever, not course, but like 5 minutes, and we would do music trivia and everybody would guess it. And it would be a lot of stuff that was modern, but every once in a while, like True Blue, but Madonna would pop up, or like White Wedding or something would pop up. And I'd be the only person in the class who ever got it. In a story. And I remember this song coming up and me raising my hand and her being like, wow, you're super cool. I love you. But then like 5 minutes later, oh, you're not popular, so you don't matter. I have a very distinct memory. I don't know if that sounds very American, doesn't it, Tim? Like there was some weird obsession. Like I don't know if she was still stuck in like high school, for lack of a better way of saying it, but like I have very distinct memories of this song just because of Miss Mullins.
There we are. It takes you back every time that you hear it.
It's like when Tim almost got his head cut off when he was driving on a bus. He wasn't driving. His school was driving on a bus, and it may have hit a thing and, glass went everywhere.
I don't remember the song that was playing, but I do remember the glass shattering and coming into the minibus in Northumberland.
I still think about that. Every time I think about that, Tim, I think about how that had happened. Everybody would have been sued. Everybody would have been sued if that had happened in the last 3 years. I think about you constantly and think about that moment in your life. I was like, if that had happened in the last 3 years, everybody would have been sued.
No, they just brushed the glass out of the kid's hair and we carried on. It was fine.
And that's Tim's formative years. Joy got yelled at by Miss Mullins because, well, she wasn't a cheerleader, and Tim got glass brushed out of his hair. Yeah. But it's weird how those things stick with you, though, isn't it, Tim? Like, as an adult, like, that sticks with me. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, absolutely 100%.
If she listens to the podcast, I'm sorry, I still hold a grudge. You can come on and talk. She actually had good music taste, and she played a lot of good stuff. I think I also hold a grudge, Tim, because I really struggle with when people say, this person's a DJ, and all they do is press play.
Yeah, that is a much longer conversation for another time.
I feel like I need to write that down as like an episode, though, Tim. We could have a whole conversation. I mean, Tim's a DJ. He presses play on a lot of things.
I tell you, I've DJ'd many breaks with various bands I've been in. I've pressed play and I've even put them in a particular order and everything.
Well, look at you. Well, I find this funny we bring this up. Okay, we can stop after this. I know we're getting into that episode. My friend Molly, who may have been on this podcast, and by may, I mean she was, we were speaking about a recent event in her life that we're not going to get into because it was a family member who was the DJ. And he was like so dedicated to this man thought that when I say he was dedicated, I really thought he was going to bring out the turntables. No, he was just pressing play on VLC. I don't know. Is that bad, Tim? Do we get to say it?
No, I mean, it fills a need. I mean, sometimes...
There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't make you a DJ to me.
Yeah, sometimes someone is provided to play music at an event, and they come with all the equipment and the lights, and they set it all up, and they press play, and that is what's required.
Fair enough.
But I sometimes
But that's not a DJ.
Yeah, but sometimes in these clubs and it's celebrity DJs and all this stuff, I don't know. That's a different thing.
All right. Well, Sam, what do you want to leave the people with?
Well, I had one more
All
song,
right.
but the closing song, which is currently playing on WROV.
Oh gosh, what is it?
Okay, it would be
No, no.
Def Leppard
Of course it is.
and the song "Rock of Ages."
I thought for a second you were going to say Sweet Home Alabama, but I was going to jump out the
No.
way.
Luckily, I didn't have to hear that.
I mean, are you surprised?
It doesn't surprise me at all. And one thing I will do just before we close the episode out, they have a thing on here, as well as their recently played, their top songs that they're currently playing on WROV. You know, not just now, but during the entire course of their broadcast. So I'm going to give you the top 10. Okay. In number 10, we have Aerosmith and Walk This Way. Number 9, we have Steppenwolf's Magic Carpet Ride.
Okay.
Number 8, we have Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac.
Go your own way.
Number 7, we have Come Down by Bush, which is not,
of course.
Yeah, it's not
It's not that, but I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 6, Poison's Nothing But a Good Time. Number 5 is Tom Petty's Running Down a Dream. Number 4 is Def Leppard's Photograph. Number 3 is Bryan Adams' Summer of '69. Number 2, Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me. And their number 1 song that they play on their radio station is 38 Special's Hold On Loosely.
Okay, so it's so interesting that Hold On Loosely is the number 1 because that does not surprise me in any way. For those who do not listen to American radio stations, I feel like sometimes you're going to think it's always like Journey Tim, but Hold On Loosely. That's so perfect. That is exactly encompassing of everything. And it's kind of just enough that like you don't think about it, but it definitely plays nonstop. And when you were talking earlier, I thought you were going to say Photograph. When you were saying the song that was playing, I thought Photograph was going to come because that is probably the number 1 that I can think of. Like not Nickelback's Photograph, everybody.
No, they're a very different photograph.
Different photograph, but I thought that's what you were going to say. The other ones that I think are missing, Tim, and I will, as the token American, I guess, from birth, that I can think of is obviously any Journey song ever, right? We can insert that here.
Absolutely.
I also was surprised that, like, I don't know, that's probably the ones that I think are Chicago or Boston.
Yeah,
like those two.
Yeah, I'm surprised More Than a Feeling is not on there, but I suppose it goes in waves how they
I'm sure it does.
You know, they've got 20 songs to play with, so they might mix them up in a different order.
But and Tim knows what I'm saying though, Chicago and Boston. Like I love them. As someone who listens to the CBS playlist. They're very hot, you know, and those would be the other ones that I'd throw out there. All right, well, that was a great episode. Good choice, Tim. I love that. All right.
Thank you.
Would you like to leave the people with anything?
Just be kind to everyone that you meet.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tsunami of another day to